Andrew is not a narcissist. He's worse. And the DSM explains exactly why. Today, we're doing a deep psychological analysis of the housemaid, focusing on Andrew, the character everyone keeps calling a narcissist. And I want to ask more precise questions. Is Andrew actually narcissistic? Or are we looking at antisocial personality traits possibly shaped by an obsessive-compulsive personality environment? We're also going to talk about his mother because she is key, and she may actually be the closest character to obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, or OCPD. And finally, I want to clear up one of the most confusions in pop psychology, which is OCD versus OCPD, because they're not the same thing at all. Hello and welcome back to Psych Talk with Anna. If you're new today, hello, my name is Anna. I am currently in graduate school for clinical psychology, on the path to becoming a licensed psychotherapist. And at the moment, I'm doing my clinical training working with veterans. So why do people call Andrew a narcissist? Well, Andrew is sharp-brained, successful, polished, and socially admired. Behind closed doors, he's extremely controlling, deceitful, emotionally and physically abusive, punitive when rules are broken, and completely lacking remorse. So it makes sense that people reach for the word narcissist. And yes, he does show narcissistic traits. According to the DSM-5, narcissistic personality disorder involves a pervasive pattern of grandiosity, need for admiration, and lack of empathy, with traits like sense of entitlement, interpersonal exploitation, lack of empathy, arrogant or haughty behaviors. Andrew clearly shows exploitation and lack of empathy. But here's a key issue. His behavior is not only driven by a need for admiration. Andrew does not punish people only because his ego is bruised. He punishes people because control itself is the goal, which brings us to antisocial traits. So let's look at Andrew through the lens of antisocial personality traits. So ASPD involves a pervasive pattern of disregard for and violation of the rights of others, shown by at least three of the following: deceitfulness, so lying, manipulation, conning others, failure to conform to lawful or social norms, reckless disregard for safety of others, consistent irresponsibility, lack of remorse after harming others. Andrew checks multiple boxes here. He lies and manipulates to maintain control. He violates others' basic human rights. He shows no guilt or remorse. He rationalizes cruelty. He uses people instrumentally. This is why Andrew fits antisocial personality traits more cleanly than pure narcissism. And of course, if we're talking about criminal psychology, he fits the psychopath stereotype. And all psychopaths are also narcissists. And that is why he's way worse than just a narcissist. And there's something else that's important here. Something the DSM doesn't formally diagnose, but clinicians still talk about. He has sadistic traits. Andrew doesn't just control, he punishes. He enjoys enforcement. He enjoys when other people suffer. He escalates consequences. That's power-driven domination. Which brings us to the question we raised before, which is OCPD. So does Andrew have OCPD? On the surface, Andrew looks obsessive and rigid. Rules matter. Deviation is punished. Order is enforced. But OCPD is not about cruelty. It's about perfectionism and anxiety. So according to the DSM-5, obsessive-compulsive personality disorder involves preoccupation with rules, order, and details, perfectionism that interferes with task completion, excessive devotion to work over leisure, inflexibility about morality or values, difficulty delegating unless things are done exactly their way, rigidity and stubbornness. So people with OCPD, and not OCD because they're different, they're very hard to deal with, extremely hard to deal with. It's almost impossible to live with them, because displays even just one little small thing, they will notice and they will go crazy on you. There is no compromise with them. That's where the rigidity comes in. Things have to be done a certain way, otherwise it's not okay. And people with OCPD are distressed by the disorder. They believe their way is correct. Control is meant to reduce anxiety, not to hurt others. And Andrew does show some sort of anxiety about imperfection. He shows also entitlement to obedience, and things have to be done a certain way, in a very meticulous, specific way. Now, let's talk about the mother. So, Andrew's mother, she's very rigid, moralistic, emotionally cold, extremely focused on how things should be. And this is where OCPD traits make a lot of sense. So, Andrew doesn't necessarily fit the OCPD diagnostic criteria, but he does have some traits which probably he gets from the mother. So people with OCPD often confuse control with responsibility. They believe rigidity equals virtue, and they impose strict standards on others. They become harsh when order is disrupted, and they struggle with emotional flexibility. So her control appears egocentric, which means that she sees it as right and necessary, not excessive. And she's not necessarily trying to dominate for pleasure, she's trying to enforce order. So the mother fits OCPD traits far more than Andrew does. Now, what's the difference between OCD versus OCPD? Just a quick note, I did make a full episode about personality disorders. So if you're interested in knowing more about them, you can check the video out here in the link. Okay, so OCD versus OCPD. So OCD, Obsessive-Compulsive disorder, is an anxiety disorder. Involves intrusive unwanted thoughts called obsessions. They're followed by compulsions to reduce anxiety. And they are ego dystonic. So the person knows that it's irrational and it causes distress. Example could be, no, this doesn't make any sense, but I have to do it or something terrible will happen. Whereas OCPD, on the other hand, is a personality pattern. Is focused on perfectionism, control, rigidity, and it's egocentric, which means it feels correct and justified. They don't see the problem there. The person believes others are the problem. Example could be, this is the right way. If you don't do this way, you're wrong. However, neither OCD nor OCPD involves sadism or pleasure in punishment, which again brings us back to Andrew. So Andrew does not meaningfully meet the criteria for OCPD, but he does show certain traits of it. He shows strong antisocial personality traits, and he has narcissistic and sadistic features. The mother possibly shows OCPD traits, rigid, moralistic, controlling, anxiety-driven. And lastly, one of the things that psychopaths do, narcissists do that as well, is making believe that their partner, their friend, whoever they're involved with, are the crazy one. And they are the perfect, kind, and generous and loving person. And they will actually make their partner crazy. And so other people will see that person as crazy because the narcissist person made them crazy because of the gaslighting and the abuse that they have experienced. Next time you see someone like Andrew, remember, it's not always about ego or admiration. Sometimes cruelty and control run deeper, shaped by rigid, perfectionistic environments like the one the mother created. And remember, personality disorders are not just labels, they're not just traits, they're patterns of behavior shaped by both traits and upbringing. And understanding that can change the way we see people. Thank you so much, guys, for listening, and stay tuned for my next episodes.